Everybody, I am Candyce Penteado. It is such a privilege to be with you today. Thank you for that nice introduction, Anne. Yes, I don't have my Napa Valley Cabernet with me right now, but I am hoping that all the teachers that are on this call do. Much deserved. It feels so good to be hosting this conversation with all of you and to give you 60 minutes of you time. That's what this is. This whole conversation is intended to be a gift to you from this organization and really from the community of Minnesota who just watched you do the impossible, standing up an online school in the matter of weeks. I mean, it really does. It overwhelms me. It has my heart for what you have been going through recently. My education, as she mentioned, is in secondary ed. So I was going to be a high school speech teacher, and just through the way life happens, I ended up actually being a teacher of business leaders instead of high school students, and it took me on a different path. But as the mom of two little girls, I have just seen such an incredible outpouring of care, generosity, and concern from the teachers in my school district, and I have no doubt that that has been true for the schools where you work. So if you have not done so already, my friends, I invite you to get something nice to hold and drink, whether it's a warm cup of tea, a cold glass of water, a nice glass of Napa Cabernet, put a blanket on your lap, take your foot off the gas, and hang out with me for 60 minutes because we are going to hopefully give you something that feels worthwhile. I can imagine how precious your time is right now, and the fact that you've decided to spend it with us here on this Thursday afternoon is not lost on me. It is my goal to make this time worthwhile for you. So to jump in, now that we're present and ready to learn, I invite you, let's see, I am going to share my screen with you. Here we go. There's a conversation that I think we ask people on a regular basis, and it's a conversation that almost gets asked so often that it is taken for granted, and we can become pretty flip in how we answer it. And that question is, how are you doing? I know that I had my own routine answers that I would give for that question. I would sometimes answer the word busy as my favorite response. You know, how are you doing? Oh, I'm busy. Maybe you did too, and now you're realizing that, wow, that wasn't busy. This is busy. So I've learned to just add one more word to this question to get to the heart of things for people, or to really help them pause and ask themselves a deeper question, which is, how are you doing really? And so I just invite you to consider that question right now for yourself. How am I doing really right now? And if you want to close your eyes and think about that and just do a little bit of a check-in with yourself, I invite you to do that. I think that this is a time where people are feeling very intense emotions. And as you know, emotions affect behavior. And so just to remind ourselves that we're not alone on this call, just listening to a voice, I thought maybe what we would do is a teacher tool, a tool that was taught to me by a teacher, and that I thought we could bring here on this call as a way of connecting with each other right now, which is to use the color zone check-in. I want you to identify which of these four colors feels most familiar to you right now, which one seems to capture how you're doing right now. And you know, some of you might be in that green moment right now. You're right, I've got my tea and I'm not working in this moment. I feel pretty well, positive and happy. Maybe some of you are feeling uneasy, like I shouldn't be on this call. I have other things to do. What am I doing on this call? Maybe you're feeling sad. Maybe today's a blue day. There's a heaviness, a lack of energy to your day today, or maybe you're feeling really in the red zone. I'm upset, I'm afraid, and I'm angry. We share this tool with other people, but sometimes we don't use it for ourselves. So pause and ask yourself the question, how do you feel really right now? We're going to initiate a poll where you can answer that question and share your results with the other people who are on this call. So Cindy has opened up a poll, And you will be able to now enter in which zone you feel like you're in. The green zone, the yellow zone, the blue zone, or the red zone right now. We're just going to give a little bit of time here for the results to come in. Looks like people are participating.
So we have about 75% of the people. If we could have just a few more, we'll be ready to go.
That's perfect. Great. Thanks, Cindy.
Oh, alrighty, there's the results. Green, we have about 21% of the people who feel green, which is they feel pretty well. About 64% feel uneasy.
Okay.
Yellow, yeah. There's 14% who feel blue, they're having a sad day.
Yeah.
And just 2% are feeling red, which is they're very upset.
They're really upset. Yeah. So the majority of you, I mean, hopefully this is confirming something that's really important in a time like this, which is you're not alone. The way that you're feeling, other people are feeling too. It's great to see that 22% of you feel well and happy right now. And it doesn't surprise me to see that the majority of you feel uneasy and feel stress and anxiety right now. And I think sadness is also an emotion that makes sense to me. There's a lot of loss. There's a feeling of not having something that we used to have that makes sense to me. So thank you for participating in that. I'm sure that at some point in the last 2 weeks, you have felt every single way on this chart. I think that for sure, even within a given day, I may have been all over this chart. And it affected me. My feelings affect me, and I'm sure that they affect you. And I want us to pay attention to like those days where we feel blue, the difference between our ability to perform, to show up fully in our life, our ability to do what needs to get done. It's harder when we're in the blue zone. It's easier when we're in the green zone. For those of you who are in that state of stress and overwhelm, that also affects your performance. And that's maybe why it's so important for us to really look into this topic more deeply, because we know that there are people who can be under the same amount of pressure, be processing that pressure differently, and struggle completely differently, even though the same stimulus is happening to all of us. I made this slide a week ago now, and it was from teachers who were helping pull this webinar together with me. And I had asked for a little bit of a reality check, like, what is it like to be a teacher right now? And I decided to just start to capture some of the sentiments and the words that they were giving back to me. And I'll tell you that even as I created this slide, I felt my chest tightening. I felt my heart beating faster. And just imagining myself in your shoes, my empathy for you, like just to say, this is a lot. And it is no wonder that 68% of you are in the yellow zone right now. It is not a surprise to me that you are feeling angry and sad. And it's amazing that despite all of this, some of you are feeling green. And I think that you can look at this and you can say, this is a lot of pressure. This is a lot of pressure. These are a lot of fears. These are legitimate concerns. This is a lot of demands put on any one person. My friend is a teacher, and she told me that she was losing her hair in the shower right now. And I laugh. It's not funny, but that's why I picked this image, is literally just feeling like my hair's falling out, right? You have a biological, physiological response to stress. And that's worth us addressing. That's worth us addressing. And so to deal with the demands of your life, I would love to give you some ideas for how you might take all of this pressure and not just immediately convert it into stress, but to possibly use it as power. And I don't say that in a Pollyanna way, because you can't read this slide and not recognize what you're going through. It's more to say, what if there was a better way? What if there was a better way? So I want us to think about stress. Maybe differently than you think about stress every day. So imagine that this is your brain. And your brain has a finite capacity for handling the demands of the world around it. This brain gets filled up by all of the stuff on that slide. So you can imagine that the demands of the world, the information you're being asked to process as a cohort of adults, we've never had more information coming at us. There's so much competing for your attention. There's so much that needs to get processed every single day. And all of us have a threshold, a point where we say, enough is enough. I can't do anymore. I'm full. This is all I can handle. And you're right. I mean, look at what you are being asked to do and the size of the demands of the world compared to what you perceive to be your capacity for handling it. And in that moment, this is my favorite definition of stress. Stress is when the demands of the world around us exceed our perceived capacity to handle it. What's interesting about this definition is the word perceived, right? I believe research has proven that if we do some of the things I'm going to talk about, that we can expand your glass. We can actually expand your capacity for handling the pressures. This isn't going to change. The demands of the world aren't going away, but we could potentially, through adjusting our perceptions, our mindsets, our focus, and our focus on ourselves, adjust our capacity to handle it. And so that's really what I'm here to help you do, is to consider your perception of your capacity. And so I'll give to you 3 best practices for increasing capacity in times of crisis: mindset management, attention management, and self-compassion and self-care. So let's jump into best practice number 1. I was talking to a few of your colleagues, and they were talking about the presence of neuroscience in the curriculums of your schools, and I was so thrilled to see that be a part of your education. My work in neuroscience tells me that if you're feeling stress right now, that is a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. It makes sense that you would be in a state of stress because your brain likes patterns. It likes predictability. And by the way, especially some of us who really like control, who really love to feel like we are the masters of the universe, the more you desire control, the more difficult a situation like this is for you. So really quickly, I just want to remind you of how the brain works, not because you might not know this, but because in the speed of just executing and working, you may have forgotten to think about this one. Your brain has 3 neural processing systems that are really important in a time of crisis. The first one is your reptilian brain. And if you want to, you can just put your hand right here on the base of your neck, and you can, well, maybe you should just give it a massage, because we all have tech neck right now and we look at our computers too much. So if that feels good, go ahead. But your brain right here, this is the most primitive part of the human brain. And in it, there's really only 2 channels. This stimulus that I'm receiving right now is safe or it is dangerous. And if it's perceived to be safe, then you go into the green channel. If it is dangerous, you go into the red channel. And if you go into the green channel, you're going to release different chemicals. You're going to release oxytocin. You're going to release serotonin. You're going to release dopamine. These are chemicals related to feelings of relaxation and joy and connection. And if you go into the red channel, you're releasing a completely different chemical pattern. Those chemicals are oxytocin and are adrenaline and cortisol. And you have a biological response to those chemicals every time they hit your bloodstream. So the reptilian brain is noticing threat. And threat is perceived as anything that feels uncertain or different than the pattern. Holy cow, is that the last 2 months? That means that you have more adrenaline and cortisol pumping through your bloodstream than normal. And the result of that chemical being in your bloodstream for a long period of time is exhaustion. If you've been feeling tired lately, it might have something to do with the fact that your brain's in a state of threat. Once your brain has gone through the reptilian channel, it goes into the emotional part of your brain, or the limbic part of your brain. This is the part of your brain where you start to associate that stimulus with feelings and memories. If you are in the red channel, the emotions tend to be that of anger, stress, and anxiety. If you are in the green channel, it tends to be more positive emotions that get stimulated. Once you go through that channel, you get up to the prefrontal cortex, and this is the money maker for us thinkers. This is executive function. This is logical thinking, rational decision making. It's creativity and empathy. It's where we become intentional, where we can weigh the pros and cons and engage in thoughtful response, intentional, controlled responses. So if I am in the green channel, I quickly go through this neural processing system, and I feel like I have access to all my cognitive capabilities. But here's what's amazing. The neuroscience shows that if your brain is in the red channel, it actually throws up a neurological gate between your limbic brain and your prefrontal cortex, which prevents you from engaging in your best thinking. It actually sends you into a habit loop between trigger and response, trigger and response, trigger and response. And it can send you sometimes into an emotional backslide, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting. So if you've been wondering, why can't I come up with a creative lesson plan right now? Why am I trying to record something on a video and I just can't get like my words right? Why am I trying to feel empathy right now for this person, but I'm so overwhelmed by my own stuff that I can't really even consider what you're going through? It's because your brain might be in a state of self-preservation. And the longer we perceive the situation that we're in as a threat, the longer we're going to be releasing those chemicals and draining our own energy. So mindset management becomes incredibly important. How could I possibly move myself into the green channel? That should be the question you're asking me right now. One way to do that is to go through an expectation adjustment. If you are looking at the current situation through the lens of the way it was, and you find yourself really focused on a sense of wishing we could go back, wishing that it hadn't happened, wondering how we might have prevented it, really focusing on the past, then you may get anchored into, on that color zone check-in, feelings of anger and sadness, because there's loss there. There's a feeling of something being taken away from you. Freedom, control. The way it used to be was better than the way it is. And so if I focus on that, I can feel really angry, justifiably angry and very, very sad. If I'm looking at the current situation through more of that yellow lens of anxiety and stress, and that's how I'm feeling, I might be too focused on the way I wish it was. And this can be in the future, like the way that I want it to be someday again, but it can also just be like the way I wanted it to be compared to how it was just now, and I'm feeling like all of this pressure because there's a gap between what would be perfect and what is me now. A gap between the way I wanted graduation to feel and the fact that we're not having it. And I feel this anxiety and this stress about like how people would be feeling about that, how I feel about that, because there's this way that it should be right now, and it's not that way. If you're in the green zone, it might be that you have moved into a state of accepting this for how it is, the way it just is. Doesn't mean you like it. It just means I can be present in it, and I can just see it for what it is and be here with it. Oprah Winfrey came to the Twin Cities earlier this year, and I had a chance to see her. And I wrote down one sentence that she offered in that conversation, which is, stress is wishing things were different than they are. Stress is wishing things were different than they are. That's so powerful to realize that some of this is self-imposed misery. and that we could really just shift our expectation and adjust into looking at the situation through a different lens, and it would maybe remove a sense of threat that we feel right now. Another way of thinking about Oprah's statement here is through the research of a gentleman. He's a British researcher. His name is Derek. Hold on one second, I have this in front of me. His name is Derek Roger. And Derek dedicated his life to studying the impact of stress on human performance, and also looking at why is it that some people just seem to be able to handle stress better than others. And at the heart of his research was the discovery that was universally true. In every single case, one pinpointed factor above all others became the key driver of whether or not a person was affected by stress. And that was whether or not they engaged in something called rumination. Rumination is the action of thinking about something over and over and over again, something that happened in the past or something that's you're worried is going to happen in the future, and then attaching a negative emotion to it. A common word for rumination, a replacement word, is worry. And engaging in rumination, I just have to tell you that the etymology of this word is so good. Rumination comes from a term connected to, rumen being a description of cows, and rumination being a description of the way that a cow, get ready, eats and chews its food, swallows it, then spits it back up, chews it some more, swallows it, spits it back up, chews it some more, and on and on and on. Rumination in our minds is the exact same thing. It is taking something and just chewing on it over and over and over and over again, and never fully digesting it. I always, when I share that, say people will never forget that, but maybe not for a good reason. It's so gross. But I would like to say that there's a secret to this that is so good. If you can practice moving yourself above the line and avoiding rumination and instead moving into reflection. So what do I mean by that? If you go to bed at night right now, sometimes when I go to bed at night, it feels like somebody opens up a laptop and all of the windows open. And I have to go through a process of kind of closing those windows. And I sometimes find myself getting stuck on a window and just worrying about it. It can be something that has just happened or something that I'm worried is going to happen the next day. When I'm focused on something that happened that day, something that I wish it hadn't happened, or why did that happen? How I can't believe that happened. And I start to attach sadness, anger, or regret to it. I'm in a state of rumination. That is what rumination feels like. Or if I'm worrying about something that hasn't even happened and I'm feeling anxiety and stress, what if that happens? What if this happens? That's also rumination. That's a worry, a sense of like dread of what may be ahead of us. To get above the line means asking yourself different questions. This is mindset management. This is self-mastery, to say, okay, I'm in a state of worry and rumination right now, and I want to pull myself above the line. What might I do? Assign positive emotion to that, and it's this opportunity mindset versus threat, right? So I'm moving out of my green channel, or out of my red channel into my green channel, and I'm saying, let me really review the events of what happened and see what's available in terms of learning. What is life teaching me right now? What am I learning? What can I take away from that experience that would make me handle it better in the future? Or planning. How am I going to handle this next time? How am I going to handle this now? There's action in reflection. There is frustration and depression available to you in rumination. The people who suffer the most get fixed in rumination. Elevating your thinking into a place of reflection can be incredibly powerful. If you've been around anybody lately who has been in a state of rumination, you can feel what happens to the energy around them and to your energy. When you're around somebody who's in a state of reflection, you know that there's a different energy they put into the room. These feelings get manifested, these zones get manifested by which state that we are in. And it truly is something that you can switch for yourself. So I invite you to move into a place of thinking and try to push yourself to stay above the line and reduce rumination. Now, as I say that to you, your brain is getting really upset with me because it turns out that the brain really likes rumination because it feels like activity. So this is what your brain is saying. Whoa, 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 wait a minute, lady. You know what? If I don't ruminate about it, then I'm not going to be prepared. Or, hey, if I keep ruminating about it, then maybe it's not going to happen. Or I'm going to lose control. Or, you know why I worry about it? Because I care. You know why I worry about it? Because I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm sure that I will resolve it and figure it out if I worry about it. But worry is waste. Instead, moving into that state of reflection to say, how am I going to handle it? I can imagine that you're worried about some of your students. What's the action we can take that goes beyond worry? How do we push past worry into something that feels a lot more productive? It's more likely to result in the green channel than the red channel. So that's best practice number one. I'm really used to being in front of people. Not getting any sort of feedback right now is, challenging, but I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going, and I hope that this is very, very helpful to you. I hope that you're finding something valuable here for you. Let's talk about our next best practice. You have really probably seen an emergence of attention management strategies in the last few years as a result of the fact that attention is a finite capacity that we have as people. Companies are spending billions of dollars trying to capture your attention. Right now, I'm sure that there are things that you should be paying attention to at home, paying attention to at work, paying attention to about yourself, paying attention to, right? Your attention should be precious to you. And mindfulness is the practice of managing attention. So mindfulness, when I started teaching mindfulness, which is probably now 10 years ago in corporate America, people thought that was a little woo-woo. And now it is mainstream, right? You see the emergence of apps and adult coloring books, and people talk about mindfulness quite a bit. And it's because we've reached collective exhaustion. We can't pay attention to it all anymore. So practicing mindfulness is about paying attention on purpose to one thing at a time. And I will say that there's probably some women on this call, we tend to take pride in our ability to multitask. We wear it like a badge of honor, that as moms and family members, like, I can do a lot of things at once. Look at me go. That actually is more exhausting than doing one thing intentionally at a time. Here's an example. Here's two beings on a walk. One is mindful and one is mindful. If you look at the human being, you can imagine that their brain is full of all of the things that was on that chart that I showed you of the woman pulling her hair up, right? It's thinking about a call I was just on, what's for dinner. It's thinking about, I wish I would have handled this better. I wish that lesson had gone better. It's worrying about, are the kids doing this, right? It's all about behind you and ahead of you. And it's not here, it's not present, it's not in the moment. Instead, if you look at the dog, where are they? They're on a walk, right? 4 trees in the sun. It's exactly what's actually happening, is what they see, what they perceive. And so what's interesting is that when you don't manage your attention, you are at a greater risk of tuning into what feels most urgent or immediate instead of what's most important. And also just know that if you wanted to drill a hole in this glass, and start to drain the brain and gain some capacity, mindfulness is one strategy that allows you to do that. It turns out that by doing nothing, you sometimes do quite a lot. One of the things that was shared with me from the teachers who helped us pull this session together, and I thought it was just so true, was that for many people, it feels like a month ago, 2 months ago, you got a job that maybe you wouldn't have even applied for, right? That if somebody asked for an online teacher, that this might not have been something you'd raise your hand for. And that there's a whole new skill set that needs to get developed, a whole new set of muscles that need to be practiced. And one of those muscles is, how do I stay productive and focused when I'm working from home? I've been working from home for 14 years. I've had to develop this muscle ever since I started running my company. This has been a part of my reality. This has been a growth edge for me, is learning how to work at home. So I thought I might share with you some best practices that I've learned over time for how to do this well, how to manage my attention, my energy, how to prioritize my attention, knowing that there's so much more stimulus available to us at home. At school, the school day is scheduled. There's a regimen. There's a task switching that happens. That's normal and predictable. At home, you get to define, your version of a school day. And that can feel really empowering if you use the right mindset. So here's some tips about how you might do a better job of staying focused at home and defining your own definition of a school day. The first thing is to consider a workday kickoff ritual. So what time am I supposed to be at work? And then creating some sort of routine that you go through, probably, maybe similar to what you did at school, or else it can be brand new because you're at home. Maybe it's, I always play my favorite song. I always get my cup of coffee. I always check this website and, dial in and print something. Maybe I go through and I prioritize my day. Maybe I journal. What's your definition of like a great way to start your day? And do that as if it was scheduled. Second is to have a very clear vision for what a great day looks like for you. And we're going to do an exercise here in just a few minutes that helps you really think through this one in more detail. But one thing I would offer to you is that I know that I do my best thinking in the morning. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, like right now, I totally drank some Diet Coke with lunch today, knowing that I had a 4 o'clock conference call with all of you. I have to manage my energy throughout the day, and I do my deepest thinking work right away in the morning because I know I'm a little bit more intellectually worn out in the afternoon. You have brand new office mates. I have 2 at my house, and now my husband at my house, and they all make noise, and they're all on Wi-Fi, and they all are on meetings, and we have never all worked together. I have traveled most of my career. My husband travels for his career. This is literally the most time we've ever spent in each other's presence in my life. And we had to sit down and make some agreements about doors being shut, signs that needed to be, created as new artifacts in our environment, best practices among us for like, when I have my headphones on, that means I'm in a meeting or I'm on a call. So don't bother me if my headphones are on. What could those agreements look like that people could say, I got it. I got it. This is a new normal and we just have to learn some new routines together as a family. Minimizing distractions. Look at this woman's workspace, right? Visual distractions, audio distractions, clutter, pings, beeps, buzzes, all of it can take you out of a state of flow and move you into like just being very, very reactive and not feeling productive. Reacting and producing are not the same thing. So really ask yourself, like, what always distracts me in my workplace? What are those things and how many of them are available to mute? This is a really good best practice. Some of you, I'm just going to say, like, I have one of the most amazing teachers for my 4th grader. And she comes up with the most creative assignments for her kids to do. And I asked her about it. I'm like, where did you have all these assignments? You've never taught this way before. Were you just planning to do this in the classroom? And she says, no, I spend hours and hours and hours out on YouTube and Pinterest. And I thought, I bet you do, because mediocre is not in most teachers' vocabulary. The level of care and concern they have about doing their jobs well exceeds their capacity sometimes, or their amount of time that they have to spend on something. And so it can result in a real just drain on the clock. Time blocking is about saying, I'm going to go out on YouTube, and in 20 minutes, I am going to set a timer for that, and I am going to just allow myself to find the best thing I can find in 20 minutes, and I'm going to move forward from there. So really regimenting that, and also recognizing that your brain needs to drain. And whether that is, I need to go outside on a 30-minute walk, I'm going to take a 15-minute nap, I am going to refresh myself some way that matters to me. That break allows the glass to empty just a little bit so that you have more capacity. So nobody's going to give you that break. You're going to have to create your own calendar and your own schedule. Beware of easy button tasks. Oh my gosh. I sometimes have things I'm looking forward to doing and things that I'm not looking forward to doing. Just the other day, I ran into this easy button desire, right? My energy was a little bit lower. And so I scheduled the vet appointment for my dog, and then I went shopping on Amazon for a little bit, and then I was taking care of business. I placed a shipped order at Target. Like, I was going through and I was getting some things done I needed to for my life, but I didn't time block it, and it was just easy. And I was ignoring the harder, more important thing that I had to really get to that day. So just beware of those easy button tasks. Put them at the point where you know your energy wanes a little bit, instead of putting them right on the front end of your day in that most productive part. And then workday shutdown. Creating that boundary between your office and your life, that is so important, or you're going to just work all the time. And that's something that I think many teachers have fallen into, is just lacking that boundary. And if you say, I would love to set a boundary, I could work 24 hours a day and I could never get my job done, then what does that day look like that you allow for that 24-hour break every weekend, and you just hold that sacred and you say, I don't work those 24 hours every single week. I've certainly been in that season myself, and just knowing that that time is coming is so incredibly important. There is no easy button, though, for doing this well. Staying focused at home and balancing the needs of yourself and everyone around you and the job that you have to do, it's a brand new skill, and you should give yourself a little bit of grace while you develop it. Attention is a finite resource. I just want to share this one more time with you as an example of an exercise that you can do to say, knowing that that's true, I want to invest that attention really wisely. So today, I want to invite you to do this exercise for tomorrow. So think about what are the most important things you need to get done tomorrow. I like to think about it as my big three. This just forces you to think about priorities and that you're not going to get everything done. But what are the 3 non-negotiables? And write those down. 3 things I absolutely want to get done tomorrow. And then I want you to ask yourself, for those 3 things, how much attention do I think each of them is going to require? Think about time blocking. I want to set aside 60 minutes for this exercise or for this task. This is a 2-hour thing that I'm going to do. I need to make a video tomorrow. I'm only going to let myself spend 20 minutes on it, I promise. And I'm going to do the pacing of those tasks on a schedule. And I'm going to note where my personal energy level is going to be the highest. I'm going to place that task right there. The one that requires the most thinking, I'm going to put where I know I have the most energy. For some people, their energy peaks around lunchtime. In the morning, good luck, they're grumpy. But maybe you are aware that your energy is at, 5 o'clock at night. Peace. That's when you do your best work. You put your best stuff right there. Also think about what I'm not going to pay attention to tomorrow. What are those distractions or clear no's, things I tend to say yes to, but every time I do, I wish I'd said no? Go ahead and write those down for tomorrow too. I'm going to say no to that. That's going to feel so good if I just say no to that. I know that people want me to do that. I don't want to do that. I have a clear no. And then how will I feel if I successfully focus on those things and I completed them tomorrow? And then hold yourself accountable for having a great day. I love this activity as part of my daily workday ritual, my kickoff party that I throw for myself every morning to start my workday, going through my big three, mapping out my day, knowing what my clear no's are, and then just like writing down one big word of how I'm going to feel when I get done. It keeps me focused. It keeps me motivated because there's nobody here doing that besides myself sometimes. So we are sending out a virtual care package following this call, and this exercise will be in it for you to take advantage of and add this to your rituals if you like this exercise. We saved this last one for the end, and we did that on purpose because I really feel like there's almost like a holding of breath that's happening for so many people right now. Like, I just need to get through this situation. And I wanted to offer up to you something that I think might help. I have a hard time uncoupling when people want to talk about self-care from feelings of like guilt. I'm not sleeping enough. I don't drink enough water. I'm not exercising enough. I really, really do love my Napa Cabernet. These are probably things from a self-care and well-being perspective you're not supposed to do, or you're supposed to be doing better. And so I just have this like shame stuff that starts to happen. But what has been so amazing is for people to really help me reframe maybe what's really happening and why aren't you doing some of those things. And so I wanted to share this with you. And the first thing is for us to talk about two words called emotional labor. It's one of the reasons why I think teachers are incredibly prone to burnout. Many teachers, I think, have taken on the task of this profession because they are nurturers, they are caregivers, just by who they are. It's their strength as people. And one of the things that nurturers and caregivers do really well is carry the weight of other people's feelings around with them. If you look at this slide again, the ones that are highlighted in orange are often like the worry and the fret that we carry on behalf of other people. I hope parents are understanding what we're doing. I'm worried about my friend who's sick. Are these kids learning what they need to be learning? What's happening in their home life? Am I meeting the expectations of my school? Are my kids okay? And it feels like weight. It just feels like weight. And you know what? This is what makes you so great at your job. You are wired to care and love on others. But if you just keep extending endless compassion outwardly and not showing it to yourself, that makes you ripe for burnout and stress. And so instead, I would like to invite you to consider something called self-compassion. And self-compassion is something I think is really good for us to end our time together talking about. One of the leading researchers in this field, her name is Dr. Kristen Neff. She defines self-compassion as being aware of your own pain and suffering, and then extending to yourself the same care and kindness you would extend to others. So during the past 40 minutes or so that we've spent together, you may have come to recognize that you do have sources of stress in your life, some of which you might be able to control, others which would just feel like inevitable pressure and demand. You don't want to convert the demands of the world into stress, right? You can feel pressure without feeling stress. And you want to hopefully start to care for yourself in a different way. When you notice suffering, when you notice that you're not doing well, Instead of nurturing yourself and taking care of yourself, so many of us instead begin a process of like self-beratement, asking ourselves like, why am I not handling this better? Why aren't I doing as well as this person at this? I should be more like so-and-so. They seem to have it all together. And so instead of really feeling for yourself, you actually make yourself feel worse. We even tell ourselves that it would be selfish or indulgent or weak if we practice self-compassion. If we started to extend ourselves grace, if we started to like say, what do you need right now? I'm going to spend time thinking about what I need right now. That would somehow feel wrong because our compassion should be extended to others and not to ourselves. So we just shove that need we have, that pain we have, that suffering we feel just down further and further, and we ignore it. Just to appreciate the gap a little bit here, I want you to imagine that your best friend was in your situation right now. And for some of you, maybe your best friend is a teacher and they are in this situation right now. But I just want you to think about what you would say to him or her if they were dealing with the life that you're dealing with. And I want you to imagine what you would know that they need right now. What you can imagine the kindness or care that you would want to shower them with. And then compare that to maybe the amount of time and energy and care and compassion you've actually extended yourself right now. Notice your willingness to provide it to them and maybe your lack of willingness to provide it to yourself. So self-compassion is not indulgent. Indulgent behaviors are things that we do to give us a short-term satisfaction, but actually have a long-term consequence. It's eating a pint of Haagen-Dazs. That might feel really good in the moment and indulgent in the moment, but there might be a long-term consequence. Self-compassion is not indulgent because there is no long-term consequence. This is healthy behavior. This is what healthy people do. Just to show you what I mean by this, I want you to practice something with me. Put your hands out in front of you and just clench them really, really hard. Okay, I just want you to just squeeze as hard as you can and feel that tension inside of your body, okay? Just squeeze and squeeze and squeeze. All of that energy is when you hold things in, okay? So now open up your hands and release them and wiggle your fingers and shake it out. This is what it feels like when you just accept it. Yes, I feel all this tension. I just want to accept it. And I just want to open my hands to it and say, what do you need right now to get through this? That's what self-compassion is. Opening yourself up to what your body is saying it needs. So I want to walk you through an exercise where I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. And we're going to do a body scan. We're going to notice where there might be stress inside of us. And we're going to attend to some of those areas of discomfort. Now, there's usually two camps when I say that we're going to do an exercise like this. Like camp one is super excited. They are the heck yeah camp. They are the, I love doing things like this. I love that we're going to take a moment to do some self-care. They know the benefit of it. And then there's usually this second camp that hears that we're going to close our eyes and do something like this. And they kind of go into the no camp, like, no, I'm not doing that. And I will just say that if you tend to be in that second no camp, when people say that we're going to close our eyes and we're going to focus on ourselves and our feelings for a minute, you probably need this most of all. So I would just encourage you to push past any discomfort that you might feel about doing this exercise and just jump in with me. If you have not been feeling your best, this might really be exactly what you need right now. So if you have been multitasking, or if you're in the middle of anything right now, I want you to truly relax and breathe with me. I'm going to turn my camera off actually right now because I just want you to feel like you're You're just alone. And you can hear my voice now, but you can only see the slide. So to start, I just want you to breathe. I want you to breathe in a long, peaceful breath and breathe out the stress from your day. Breathe in from your nose, just this cool sense of peace, and breathe out stress. Breathe in through your nose, cool peace, and breathe out stress. Now I want you to just place your hands either on your heart, or you can just maybe give yourself a relaxed hug. Just put your hands on your chest somewhere. And if you haven't done so already, just close your eyes and let's just breathe again. Breathing in, breathing out. And I just want you to notice the human being that you are. Notice this body that you care for. Notice if it feels tired. Notice if there are places of tension. Notice the speed of your thoughts and try to slow them down. Breathe. Notice the temperature of your head. Notice your hands, your toes, your heartbeat. Just notice how you feel. It's often when we slow down like this and just focus on ourselves that we start to notice signals of physical or emotional discomfort. And discomfort might manifest itself as a tightness in your throat, or a heaviness in your heart, or pressure in your head, or tension in your shoulders. So I just want you to focus on the places where you might feel discomfort right now. Is there a feeling of tension from just holding on so tight? Or just trying so hard? Is there a heaviness because of the weight of responsibility you've been bearing? Or a heaviness for just longing for the way things used to be? Is there an emotion in your throat? I don't know, maybe a sob that's been waiting to be released? Or an ache in your heart from missing students or longing to go back to school? Just allow yourself to feel this discomfort. Just notice the energy it is generating in your body. And just know that this is normal. It makes sense. And you have a choice. You can choose to ignore this discomfort and just keep going. You can grip it tighter and tighter, or you can release it. If you choose to ignore it, it's not going to go away. It will likely grow and require more and more of your energy. So for the sake of this exercise and your well-being, let's just release it. Let's breathe it out. Let's let it go. Let's just open our palms to it. Let's keep breathing. Now I want you to show yourself some love and kindness. I want you to repeat a few phrases to yourself. Say, I'm going through a lot right now. And this is hard. And I'm doing the best I can. I feel discomfort right now. And this struggle makes sense to me. But I accept it for what it is. And I accept myself for how I'm handling it. I'm going to get through this. I know what my body needs right now. I want it to be well. My prayer for you is that you would feel well, that you would feel peace, that you would extend yourself love and kindness as you navigate through this uncertain time, that you would practice self-compassion and begin to recognize your needs and believe that you are someone worthy of a compassionate response. Big breath. Fill your body full of peace. And when you're ready, open your eyes. As you were practicing that, I wonder if you realized what would make you feel well right now. That question of wellness is one that can encompass so much more than what the wellness industry would have you believe it means. Well-being is something that you get to define. I like to ask that question of people who I coach. What does being well mean for you? And my favorite answer is whenever I do something that just makes me feel more like myself. Isn't that great? There's no guilt in that. It's something I would want to do because I just feel more like myself when I do that. And I take care of that for myself. For me, I know that there are a couple really important parts of well-being in my well-being regimen that go beyond sleeping and drinking enough water, although those things are very important and make a huge difference for me. Two of mine are being organized and laughing. When my life feels disorganized, it drains my energy. I'm for sure somebody who cleans her house before I go to bed each night. I'm for sure somebody who likes a lack of clutter in my environment. It provides mental clarity and a sense of well-being to me. I have to make a priority to do that for myself. And laughter is so important. Zoom calls with girlfriends have, been a source of sustenance for me during this time. Like, I like to cry laughing. And I make that a priority. I schedule time with people who I think are hilarious. I watch TV shows or videos that make me laugh because it's such a jolt of oxytocin to me. It's a source of great joy. And so making yourself feel really clear about what kind of energy am I longing for right now is the way that we'll end our time together. I know that I'm just a few minutes over schedule here, but I do want to have you ask yourself what type of energy you're most longing for right now in your life. Is it physical energy? Do you need to move more, eat better food, get more rest, practice pampering your body? Is it physical energy that you long for? Or is it mental energy? Is it doing things that are like organizing for me, or reducing distractions, or limiting screen time, or maybe going on a mindful walk? You just go, that's really what I'm longing for. It's just these times where I can feel more focused and I need to work on the mental game. Or is it emotional energy? Practicing more gratitude and laughter and playfulness, spending more time in connection with friends and family. Is that what I'm longing for more of in my life? That would make me feel more well. Or is it spiritual? Is it practicing more prayer, meditation, journaling, the inner world, the inner life, whatever is holy to you, reading, learning, that kind of energy? Is that what you're longing for right now? We're going to do one last poll as we say goodbye to each other to find out what kind of energy you're longing for. So, Cindy, if you wouldn't mind initiating our last poll here, just pick which of these 4 boxes most resonates with you in terms of what kind of energy you are longing for right now in your life: physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. Let's see.
I wanted to thank everyone for taking a minute to vote. We have about 80% of the people have given their thoughts, and I think I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, okay, so we can move on.
Perfect.
Okay, here are the results of the people who did participate. 27% were saying physical, so almost a third. 20% said mental energy. 35% wanted emotional energy, and that's what they were longing for. And then 18% said spiritual. So oddly enough, all in all, it really was pretty close. I think in order it would be emotional, physical, and then mental and spiritual were pretty much a tie.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for doing that, Cindy. For the sake of recognizing where your capacity is at as people, I would invite you to just pick one practice, one thing that would give you the kind of energy you just said you wanted to do, and make a commitment to just do it for 1 week. Just one thing that's in that category that you just want to do for a week, and just really tune in to like, what's the impact, what's the ROI for you in doing that one thing, and then you can just keep adding to it. And don't be surprised if that longing shifts, right? Maybe what I need right now is different than what I needed last week. And, it's going to have to go right on the calendar. So I'll just end by saying, thank you for everything. Thank you for everything you're doing for the kids and the parents and your school and each other. It's just so impressive. And it has been, I don't know, it has been just something incredible for me to just have you on my heart for the last 2 weeks and be thinking about the teachers out there in a different way. I'm really excited that we get to share this information with you. It'll be available as a link for people who may have missed it. If you found it helpful, you can feel free to share this. We're making this incredibly shareable to anybody who you think might find value in this session. The organization is just being incredibly generous and saying that this is something that if it could help a teacher anywhere, they wanted it to. So I'm really grateful that you called me, and I hope that this was a good use of your very precious time. So stay healthy, stay well.